Origin system. Excerpt 14. Nova. Within the lost records of the Orcan Empire, where power was both revered and feared, Nova emerged from the boundless ambition and darker depths of the Orcan's desire for control. Forged from antimatter, the most volatile force in the universe, Nova wasn't just a weapon. She was a paradox, a being of both creation and destruction, destined to walk the fine line between savior and annihilator. Nova's inception was shrouded in secrecy, her creation a desperate gamble by the Orcan to harness the chaotic potential of antimatter. This volatile essence was bound within her, a living engine of destruction designed to manipulate reality itself. Her power was unparalleled, capable of bending time and space, disintegrating foes with a mere thought, and bringing entire armies to their knees. Yet with great power came great peril. Nova's story took a dark turn when she crossed paths with Wholesome Ur, a notorious solar rail pirate known for his cunning and ruthlessness. Hired by an unknown party with a vendetta against the Tenno, Ur orchestrated a plan that would test Nova's limits and force her into a harrowing decision. Nova was lured onto the Orcan passenger vessel Masker's Theodolite, a grand ship carrying 10,800 souls. His trap was meticulous. He ruptured the ship's antimatter reactors and drifted perilously close to a gravity well, jettisoning all escape pods and leaving the vessel adrift, its crew doomed. Ur's message was clear. Nova would have to sacrifice herself, using her antimatter essence to replace the ruptured core and save the lives of all. But Nova was more than just a weapon. Her mind, sharp and calculating, devised a plan even in the face of certain doom. Turning to the technician she had just saved, she hurled her Hiko stars at Ur's surveillance cameras, shattering his illusion of control. With the cameras destroyed, she walked into the reactor chamber, knowing the pirate was watching closely. As Ur's confidence swelled, the technicians under Nova's silent command overrode the reactor's blast doors, granting her access to a nearby bridge. From there, Nova created a wormhole, a shimmering tear in reality, transporting herself directly into the heart of Ur's stronghold. With precision and grace, she unleashed her ultimate power, slowing the pirate and his mercenaries to a crawl, their movements sluggish, their fate sealed. Primed with molecular energy, she picked them off one by one with her Alamo sniper. Nova carved a path through the chaos until she faced Ur himself. In a final decisive move, she seized the pirate and threw him into the series of wormholes she had carefully placed, dragging him into the reactor chamber just as the portals collapsed. As the blast doors sealed, Ur's molecules infused with the unstable antimatter reached critical mass. His body went nova, and the ship's engines roared back to life, saved by the very force he sought to exploit. The Masker's Theodolite and its crew were spared, and Ur's life ended as fuel for the ship's rebirth, a fitting end for one who sought to manipulate the uncontainable. Nova emerged from the ordeal not just as a savior, but as a living reminder of the fragility and resilience of the universe. Her power, a double-edged sword, was a demonstration of the fine balance between creation and destruction. The Tenno, in their eternal quest for balance, found in Nova both a symbol of hope and a warning of the perils that come with wielding such cosmic force. Nova's legacy is one of paradox and purpose, a story etched into the fabric of the Origin system. She is the Guardian, a sentinel that stands before the precipice of the void. Her power a beacon of both fear and salvation. Her power resonates through the Origin system, a tale that tells of both the darkness and the cosmic light that resides within. Nova, the Starborne.
Oh hey Dreamer, fancy meeting you here. Welcome to another episode of Chronicles of the Origin System. Today, we unravel the mysteries of Nova, the antimatter manipulator. With her unparalleled control over reality, Nova can turn the tide of any battle. But we're not just here for the lore, we're also breaking down an endgame build that maximizes her destructive potential. So hold on to those ephemeras and get ready to dominate the Origin system. Let's start with our ability breakdown. Nova's passive gives us a 15% chance to receive health orbs on killing enemies while slowed down, and likewise, the same chance to receive energy orbs while enemies are sped up. Paired with our Tau Forged Violet Archon Shard, which gives us a 30% chance to receive energy or health based on the opposite orb pickup, This gives us a perfect synergy for energy management, as all enemies will always be primed, not only taking 100% extra damage, but giving us the ability to constantly refresh our energy and health pool no matter which one we pick up. This gives us the freedom to not slot in equilibrium, which in turn allows us to gain more range, duration, strength, or overall quality of life. But since we're all a bunch of void-wielding orphan psychopaths wearing metal skin suits, let's go for damage. Fuck yeah. Ability 1, Null Star, the energy of the universe. Nova summons antimatter particles, the amount scaling directly with ability duration, that orbit her and automatically target nearby enemies, dealing 200 blast damage per particle on impact. It is to be noted that the blast damage will also scale directly with ability strength. With our current mod setup, we're able to hold 20x Null Star particles within a 19-meter radius. At 258% ability strength, each particle reduces incoming damage by 12.9%, capping at 90% damage reduction. At our current duration and strength, we require 7 particles at minimum for max DR, but boast the tasty amount of 20 particles per cast. Now keep in mind that this damage reduction decays as particles are consumed to attack enemies, so remember to constantly keep your stacks up, which leads us to our Augment Synergies. The Neutron Star Augment allows Nova to manually detonate remaining particles, dealing 240 heat damage in an 8-meter radius per particle. On recast, this radius is doubled and Null Star particles will seek out targets. It is to be noted that this directly synergizes with the Molecular Fission Augment, which enables Nova to prime enemies with Null Star, and upon murdering primed enemies, will restore a Null Star charge and has a 100% chance to restore 2 charges, allowing for a cycle of constant ability refresh. This gives us the amazing opportunity to constantly affect enemies with blast and heat status effects, and more so, a constant accumulation of damage. Pair this ability with Archon Vitality to double our heat procs, and we become a bullet-jumping Higgs boson as we not only mass spread blast status and damage, but an escalating amount of our favorite damage synergy, heat. From there, we pair this ability with Roar and Molecular Prime to boast a never-ending fucking barrage of auto-target antimatter eruptions that are capable of utter devastation. Much like my explosive personality on a Friday night. Ability 2, Antimatter Drop. Nova releases a slow-moving antimatter orb that absorbs damage from the warframe and allied attacks. Upon impact or detonation, it releases the absorbed damage as blast damage in a 15-meter radius, amplified by up to 8x of absorbed damage. This stacks with ability strength, and with a 100% blast status chance. I'd like to note that the absorbed damage is hard capped at 25k, which is a huge amount of horsey shit. Thanks devs for the rework. While originally Antimatter Drop was an exceptional damage-dealing monster, the rework placed some hard caps on the damage output while simultaneously adding some utility reworks that made it much easier to play with. This included slowdown mechanics that make it much easier to shoot into, stacking the damage quickly and giving us the option to recast the ability to propel the orb forward at absurd speeds, giving us a quick and efficient mob nuke. Unfortunately, with its hit and damage cap rework, it is no longer viable for one-shot level cap capabilities. While there is a damage cap placed on Antimatter Drop, I'd like to point out that it is directly augmented by not only Roar double dipping its damage, but also by Molecular Prime. So at 198% strength, you're able to gain the 15.84x damage multiplier from Antimatter Drop. And at 258 strength, we add in the faction damage bonus from Roar, the 200% damage increase via Molecular Prime, and taking in the circumstance of 10 viral stacks multiplying at 4.25x. The potential maximum number breakdown is 25,000, 20.64 times 1.77 times 2, effectively increasing the damage output from Antimatter Drop by a staggering 29,824.8%. I'd like to also mention that blast status also double dips off of Roar, creating a separate instance of damage. So all in all, we're sitting at a massive 52,790% damage increase, which puts us at a base 7,456,200 damage. Wait, what in the actual fuck? Well, who said Antimatter Drop was garbage? I did. That was me. Ability 3, Roar. Let's step it up a notch. While I am not a big proponent on adding damage increasing abilities to warframes, this is one that I personally feel needs to live on Nova's kit, as all of our abilities deal with damage amplification in one form or another, so it's only fair that we push this over the limit. Simply put, Roar is a Helminth subsumed ability that grants a damage multiplier to all allies within range. This multiplier affects all sources of damage, including abilities, weapons, and even certain status effects, making it a versatile addition to Nova's arsenal. At 258% strength, Roar reaches a 77.4% damage bonus to all damage sources, 89.4% if we motorize Sling. We open up many exceptional synergies that apply to everything in Nova's kit. Roar amplifies null star damage dealt by the individual particles and the explosions caused by neutron stars' detonation. This adds another layer of area of effect crowd control and damage. The boosted explosions will clear clusters of enemies while maintaining Nova's survivability. As stated earlier, Antimatter Drop, which already scales based on absorbed incoming damage, is greatly amplified by this subsume. With Roar increasing the damage multiplier, every shot into the orb will result in much stronger explosions capable of wiping out groups of enemies, turning the boosted orb into a tactical fucking nuke for clearing entire rooms. Molecular Prime already amplifies incoming damage by priming enemies with a debuff that causes them to take additional damage. Adding Roar on top of this creates a multiplicative effect. For instance, with Molecular Prime's damage amplification and Roar's 77% bonus, enemies are extremely vulnerable to incoming firepower, effectively turning every hit into devastating damage. This synergy ensures that primed enemies will melt under concentrated fire, even at high levels. Ability 4, Molecular Prime. Enter the Molecular Dragon. Nova releases an expanding wave that primes enemies within a 56-meter radius, making them receive 200% damage vulnerability, effectively doubling damage done to them while slowing them by 75%, which is capped at 150% strength. Molecular Prime also causes enemies to detonate on death, dealing 1,584 blast damage in a 19-meter radius. I'd like to notate a special interaction between Molecular Prime and the Devouring Attrition evolution on the Laetum, Felarx, and Fenmore, but we will get into that during our weapon synergies, so calm your cute little candy asses down and hold on tight. It's gonna be a wild fucking ride. Primed enemies have their action speed increased or decreased by 75%. This is controlled by holding or tapping the ability button, and our passive ability perk is dependent on which one we choose. Upon detonation, subsequent enemies have a 20% chance to receive additional blast status procs. With the Molecular Fission Augment, we extend our priming capabilities to null star particles, giving them the ability to not only prime enemies they come in contact with, but restoring null stars on enemy death. This blesses us with a perpetual cycle of priming murder, as each ability can facilitate the expansion of the other. Now we see a beautiful synergy interaction between Roar and Molecular Prime. The wiki states that Molecular Prime places a static 200% damage vulnerability increase that is not affected by any other interactions, but after meticulous testing, we see that Roar's faction damage increase does in fact increase the detonation damage of Molecular Prime. Now with the 77% increase from Roar, we are able to break down the multiplier to an equation of damage times 2 times 1.77. This ultimately gives us a 3.54x damage increase via primed enemies after Roar. This damage increase is spread to detonated enemies within the 19-meter radius and is also susceptible to the 60% damage falloff. Now let's get into Arcanes, putting Nova over power level 9000. As we dive into our two Warframe Arcanes, what they do and how they are applied perfectly to this build, we'll see how each synergy meticulously crafts Nova into a fucking monster. Arcane 1. Arcane Truculence. Make 'em sick, make 'em dead. When a Warframe gains 3000 or more Overguard, this Arcane releases a radial pulse applying 10 stacks of viral status to enemies within a 30-meter radius at rank 5. Our synergy is realized when we capitalize on the combination of Truculence and the Arcane secondary Fortifier that we will be equipping on our Laetum. Arcane Truculence turns Nova into a viral spreading machine without needing active effort, allowing you to focus on managing abilities and weapons, while not focusing on being forced to use viral on weapons, instead being able to slot in elements such as Corrosive for armor stripping and Cold for stop CC and increased critical damage. Combined with secondary Fortifier, Nova gains additional survivability and maintains the ability to dominate enemies in close quarters. This combination enhances both offensive capabilities and survivability. Molt Augmented. Strengthen me, oh space mommy. Molt Augmented grants Nova 0.24% ability strength per enemy killed, up to a maximum of 60% additional ability strength. This bonus allows the build to scale dynamically during long missions, becoming stronger as the kill count rises. You know it, I know it, we both love it. It's the significant other you always knew you needed. Now let's get into Archon Shards. pushing the build over the limit. We will be making use of 2 Tau-Forged Emerald Archon Shards, 2 Tau-Forged Crimson Shards, and 1 Tau-Forged Violet Archon Shard. Now in this section we will go over which stats we choose for each, why, and what they will do to help push Nova over the fucking level cap edge. First and foremost, we will be using 2 Tau-Forged Emerald Archon Shards to increase the maximum stacks of corrosive status effects by +3, from 10 to 16. These shards allow for greater scaling of corrosive procs on enemies. Normally, corrosive stacks cap at 10, which reduces enemy armor by up to 80%. With these shards, the cap increases to 16, enhancing the armor reduction to a full 100%, giving us an extended amount of time at full armor reduction. More time with enemies fully armor stripped means you have all the time in the world to hippie dance with your homie while you absolutely melt level cap enemies into motherfucking oblivion. These shards work directly with the Laetum's corrosive damage build and the Xoris' corrosive cold build. Each additional corrosive proc deals more damage and increases the total armor reduction, making tougher enemies like heavily armored disruption targets or steel path units far easier to kill. It also pairs perfectly with Molecular Prime, as primed enemies with reduced armor take massively amplified damage from corrosive stacks and other elements like heat and viral, which we will be incorporating within our abilities, arcanes, and weapon synergies. From there, we will slot in 2 Tau-Forged Crimson Shards, one for an extra 15% duration and one for 15% ability strength. Now, one provides a flat 15% ability strength bonus, increasing total strength beyond mod capacity, and the other provides a flat 15% bonus to ability duration, extending the uptime of all duration-based abilities. Keep in mind that duration is a key stat for Nova, and this shard provides several advantages such as longer persistence of time for molecular prime waves, extended duration of roar for Nova and her allies, and more travel time for Antimatter Drop. Not to mention more of them tasty null stars. Our Tau-Forged Violet Shard will significantly improve Nova's sustainability in high-level content by ensuring both health and energy pools are consistently replenished, giving us the option to convert health pickups to 30% energy and vice versa. When paired with mods such as Synth Deconstruct, Duplex Bond, and Nova's passive, which grants a 15% chance for energy or health orbs depending which wave we use, we create a synergy that effectively doubles the efficiency of both energy and health pickups, ensuring Nova can sustain her abilities and stay alive in prolonged engagements. Weapons overview. We will be going over multiple weapons as Nova is able to make great use of all of these weapons to her massive damage amplification synergies. In this portion of the guide, we will look at weapons such as the Stalhta, Boar Prime, Laetum, the Xoris, and the Hate Incarnate, which all are uniquely paired to take massive advantage of Nova's kit. Stalhta, the perfect hybrid of precision and devastation. The Stalhta is a unique weapon in Warframe's arsenal, combining raw explosive power with pinpoint precision. This weapon stands out due to its 2 distinct firing modes, both of which synergize perfectly to handle any situation. From mowing down mobs to precision strikes against high-value targets, the Stalhta becomes an endgame powerhouse, leveraging critical hits, status effects, and unparalleled versatility to dominate the battlefield. The Stalhta's primary fire mode unleashes a steady stream of pinpoint energy projectiles. Now, thanks to its high critical chance and multiplier, this mode thrives on crit-based mods, ensuring consistent red crits that melt enemies. With the addition of primary acuity and galvanized scope, headshots provide a stacking critical chance and critical damage bonus, amplifying your overall lethality to maximum levels. Yet the primary fire pales in comparison to the Stalhta's Alt-fire mode, where its devastation truly shines. A charge blast sends a massive energy explosion into the fray, dealing immense AoE damage that scales even higher with crits and status effects. Keep in mind that the Stalhta has a multiplicative critical bonus and multiplicative damage bonuses from Galvanized Aptitude. Take a moment when you get a chance to check out the wiki weapons list. This build takes full advantage of the mode's explosive potential, turning it into a room-clearing option. The AoE benefits from internal bleeding, which inflicts slash procs on targets damaged by the explosion. While the Riven we have reduces the Stalhta's slash stat, the forced impact proc from the Alt-fire ensures that internal bleeding compensates. Since Hunter Munitions and internal bleeding slash damage is not based on individual IPS weighting, but instead the base raw damage total, we are guaranteed a steady stream of immense health-draining effects on tougher enemies. Combined with viral procs, this interaction annihilates even high-level targets with ease. Our 2 other primary weapons of note are the Burston Prime and the Boar Prime. Both amazing powerhouses that are capable of melting through the toughest enemies quicker than a 4 AM MDMA session with Limp Bizkit. Now, I'd like to point out
that everybody here should give HairlessPersian a ton of shit because his uncultured shit self doesn't know Limp Bizkit. He's dead to me. Since we have already gone into great detail in previous videos, feel free to pause and check the links for more details on both of these amazing weapons and their mechanics. Okay, get your ass back to the video, we got more goodies. Secondary weapons: survive, destroy, and dismantle. The Laetum, devouring attrition in action. The true power of the Laetum lies in its incarnate form, where the weapon transforms into a death-dealing machine. The devouring attrition evolution grants a massive multiplicative 2000% damage boost on non-critical hits, and this effect has an extremely unique synergy with Nova's Molecular Prime. When enemies affected by Molecular Prime detonate, the explosion inherits this 50% chance for a 2000% damage boost, spreading the amplified damage to nearby enemies. The chain reaction creates a cascading wave of destruction that clears entire rooms effortlessly. Pair this with the corrosive and heat damage elements and the Laetum becomes an armor-stripping serial killer that literally fucking annihilates every single enemy in the game. Roar subsumed onto Nova further amplifies the damage from devouring attrition and the explosions caused by Molecular Prime. This triple synergy between Roar, Molecular Prime, and devouring attrition creates unparalleled destructive potential, ensuring that all enemies die within seconds and every explosion eradicates anything in its radius. The secondary Fortifier Arcane adds another layer of potency by granting overguard upon damage dealt to overguarded units such as EXILUS. It also amplifies the Laetum's damage output by 8x against targets with overguard. When paired with Arcane Truculence, once attaining 3000 overguard, the Arcane procs 10 viral stacks on nearby enemies within 30 meters. This synergy transforms Molecular Prime's explosions into even deadlier chain reactions, as damaging units with overguard affected by viral multiplies the damage of subsequent detonations. Pair that with our capabilities of stripping their armor and holy shit, you got a shit NATO of damage. The math breaks down as such: secondary Fortifier, 8x, Truculence viral, 4.25x, corrosive, 14 stacks, 10x, Roar, 1.77, which is additive to a Bane mod, devouring attrition, 21x, molecular vulnerability, 2x. Our effective multiplier to the Laetum is now 25,275.6x. This 25k damage increase is even before adding in the Bane mods, and these numbers only reflect that inherited damage via Molecular Prime. This does not even account for the raw damage output that the Laetum itself is capable of. Conan the fucking Barbarian type shit. The overguard mechanic is particularly valuable for survivability, as it provides additional protection while simultaneously enhancing the Laetum's offensive potential. With this build, the Laetum not only decimates enemies, but also strengthens your defenses, making it an ideal companion in endgame content. So let's move on to our melee weapons. The big bada boom strip, baby. The Xoris is a versatile glaive type melee weapon that thrives on both single target eliminations and AoE crowd control. Its synergy with melee influence allows us to spread corrosive and cold damage, which ensures enemies are slowed, stripped of their defenses, and obliterated by explosive heavy attacks. Not only are we able to strip armor from enemies within 20 meters of its initial strike, but we also increase subsequent critical damage via cold procs to all other weapon crits. Its heavy explosions force proc electricity, which makes it a perfect weapon to use with melee influence. Adding Galvanized Reflex to the build adds a consistent 5x combo multiplier as long as we keep killing with the weapon. When paired with Nova's abilities, the Xoris becomes a critical part of a build designed to dominate the battlefield with precision and power. Alternatively, if you allow your Laetum and companions to be your source of armor strip, consider running the Hate Incarnate. Paired with Burning Hate and Galvanized Elementalist, the heat inherent from this weapon spawns only what we may know as Hell on Earth. When paired with Archon Vitality, Neutron stars go from proccing 20 times to a maximum 40 additional procs. This will apply the most devastating heat inherit that only the Indifference himself can rival. This combination may only be known as legend to the Tenno a millennia from now. Now let's touch upon viral damage, how it stacks, and the true math behind the greatest damage type in the game. Viral damage is an elemental damage type created by combining cold and toxin elements. Its primary status effect, known as Virus, amplifies damage dealt to an enemy's health. Upon infliction, a viral status effect increases damage to the target's health by 100% for 6 seconds. Each subsequent proc adds an additional 25% increased damage, stacking up to 10 times, resulting in a maximum of 325% increased damage to health, or as per broken down via the official equation, 4.25x. It's important to note that this effect does not impact shields, but is effective against enemies with substantial health pools. In the context of Nova's build, viral damage synergizes effectively with her abilities. Applying viral procs to primed enemies further amplifies the damage they receive, making them more susceptible to both weapon damage and the explosive effects of molecular prime. Weapons like the Burston prime, when modded for viral damage, can rapidly apply the virus status effect. Other weapons, like the Laetum paired with corrosive and secondary Fortifier, can strip enemy armor while activating Arcane Truculence to sweep the field with a radial pulse of viral procs. Kinda like Europe after a good bird flu outbreak. This not only weakens enemies but also sets them up for devastating chain reactions when combined with Molecular Prime's detonations. Utilizing these arcanes can enhance the application and effectiveness of viral procs, ensuring that enemies are consistently debuffed and vulnerable to increased damage. By integrating viral damage into Nova's build, players can maximize damage output, efficiently dispatching even the most resilient foes in the Origin system. Now here's how we break down the damage equation for viral, and how we land upon a 4.25x damage increase at max stacks. Now let's get into one of my favorite subjects, companions, and more specifically, the Mecha Hound. What do I need to say? The best boy is good. The best boy is strong. The best boy fucking one-shots level cap enemies. I mean, what the fuck? Our Mecha Hound is modded with Momentous, Contagious, Vicious, and Manifold Bond, setting us up for some of the greatest status spreading mods in the game. Now we add Reinforced Bond for enhanced fire rate and Prime Pack Leader to heal your best boy while also granting Overguard to your Hound on excess healing. Now to fully realize our best boy's destructive capabilities and status spreading magic, we will add Synergized Prospectus, which adds electric procs to your already stacked fucking plate of status effects, an Equilibrium Audit to knock down enemies while also spreading all elements due to Manifold Bond adding said elemental status effects to companion mod presets. I mean, what more do you fucking want? Here's the build. Take it, use the build, be the build. Now if you're broke and can't make a Hound to kill everything for you, the next best thing is the Artax, which boasts the same status spreading application minus electricity, yet adding the standalone instance of cold procs to freeze enemies in place and increase our potential crit damage to frozen targets. Now let's break down the execution of Nova's build efficiently while capitalizing on her abilities, viral damage synergy, and weapon armor stripping for maximum crowd control and damage output. Step 1. Set up crowd control with Molecular Prime. Cast Molecular Prime immediately upon entering an encounter. This ability blankets the battlefield, slowing enemies by 75% and marking them for detonation. Molecular Prime amplifies damage to primed enemies, including viral procs from your weapons. The detonation effect creates devastating chain reactions that obliterate grouped enemies, especially when combined with Devouring Attrition. With the Laetum equipped, primed overguarded enemies also trigger secondary Fortifier to gain Overguard, which scales with viral procs from our companion and Arcane Truculence for massive multipliers. Step 2. Maximize survivability with Null Star and Neutron Star. Activate Null Star to gain 90% damage reduction, a critical layer of survivability. As enemies close in, detonate Null Star with Neutron Star, creating a wave of blast and heat procs. Archon Vitality ensures heat procs are doubled per single heat proc, adding to the effectiveness of this detonation. Recast Null Star when necessary to maintain damage reduction while consistently applying procs across the battlefield, as well as priming targets with Null Star particles via the Molecular Fission Augment. Step 3. Unleash Roar for triple synergy amplification. Roar stacks with Molecular Prime's damage amplification, viral procs, and corrosive armor stripping from your weapons, and Devouring Attrition's 2000% damage bonus, creating exponential destruction. Cast Roar before using Molecular Prime or engaging with heavy enemies to ensure maximum impact. Step 4. Weapon execution for total annihilation. Engage enemies at range with viral, corrosive, and heat procs, taking advantage of the Burston and Laetum Incarnate evolutions, or getting downright and dirty with a weapon like the Stalhta. Use the Laetum's Incarnate mode to mow down groups of enemies, capitalizing on amplification, gaining Overguard, stacking viral via Truculence, while also being able to output max damage due to 100% armor stripping via the Laetum and the Xoris. Utilize the Laetum in conjunction with Molecular Prime for devastating results. Devouring Attrition spreads the 2000% damage bonus to enemies detonated by Molecular Prime, creating cascading explosions. Apply corrosive and heat procs to strip enemy armor and obliterate targets with Arcane Truculence's scaling multiplier. So what are our final thoughts on the Starborne Queen of Antimatter? This Nova build is an exceptional blend of devastating crowd control, unparalleled damage scaling, and unmatched survivability, elevating Nova into an endgame juggernaut, capable of controlling entire maps, armor stripping enemies to near nothingness, and unleashing nuclear level destruction. all while maintaining excellent energy economy and survivability. With this setup, Nova truly lives up to her reputation as the antimatter queen and a force to be reckoned with from within the Origin system. And there you have it, Tenno. Nova, a warframe built for pure devastation, unparalleled crowd control, and deadly synergy. This build turns Nova into a walking cataclysm. Every ability, every weapon, and every shard works in perfect harmony to dominate the battlefield, leaving nothing but ashes in her wake. Now, whether you're facing steel path challenges, level cap disruption and endurance runs, or anything in between, we ensure that Nova remains a true force of destruction and survival. This has been another episode of Chronicles of the Origin System. If you enjoyed this deep dive into Nova's lore and endgame build, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell for more Warframe content. This is the Demon Prince, and I'll see you in the Void, Dreamers.